Welcome back to the deep dive. I was sitting in my kitchen this morning just staring at that little blinking green light on my router,
Uh-huh.
the one that flashes like crazy even when everyone's asleep. And I had this thought. We treat Wi-Fi like it's magic.
It's the common experience for sure.
It's the air we breathe
Hmm.
digitally. I use it every single hour. You use it every hour. But if you ask me to explain what is actually happening inside that invisible signal, I'd probably just wave my hands and say, science.
That's it exactly. It's technology that has become so advanced, it's, indistinguishable from magic. But the reality is, it's not magic at all. It's choreography.
Choreography.
Yeah, it's an incredibly complex, high-speed dance happening in the air all around us. And most of us have no idea who is leading or what the steps are.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We have a stack of really technical documentation here that deconstructs wireless LAN architecture, or WLAN. And our mission today is to move past that plug it in and pray mentality. We're looking at what our sources call the 4 pillars of a robust network.
Right. And those pillars are so crucial if you want to understand why your connection works or, why it fails miserably right when you need it most. We're going to systematically walk through the hardware foundation, the protocol discipline, the physics of coverage, and then finally, defensive depth.
I am genuinely excited to finally understand why my internet cuts out when the microwave is running. That has plagued me for years.
A classic problem.
But I also want to bridge the gap between, the setup I have at home and the massive networks we see in offices or airports. Because looking at these schematics, they can't just be using bigger versions of my home router, can they?
Definitely not. And that's the perfect place to start, the difference between home and enterprise. To understand that, we have to look at this idea of order from chaos. You have to remember, Wi-Fi is a shared medium. It's half duplex.
Half duplex. Okay, let's pause and unpack that term before we go any further. Because full duplex is what we have on a wired connection, right?
Exactly. On an Ethernet cable, you can send and receive data at the same time. It's like a telephone call where we can both talk over each other and still hear everything.
Okay.
Wi-Fi, just by the nature of physics, is half duplex. It's like a walkie-talkie. You can't listen and talk at the same time. If everyone tries to transmit at once, you just get noise. Collisions.
So everything we're about to discuss is really about how we create a polite conversation in a room where everyone wants to shout.
Precisely. It's all about creating strict rules for the silence so the message can get through.
That is a great mental image.
Yeah.
So let's start with the physical box, the hardware
Yeah.
foundation. In my house, I have one box. It's the router. But looking at these diagrams, calling it a router is, well, it's a bit of a lie, isn't it?
It is a bit of a misnomer, yeah.
Yeah.
We technically call that home box a Swiss Army knife device.
A Swiss Army knife.
In a typical home setup, that one plastic box is doing 3 distinct heavy lifting jobs. First, it's an access point, or AP, that's the radio part. Second, it's an Ethernet switch, those 4 ports on the back. And third, it's the actual router, doing IP routing and all
Let's
that.
do it. Jack of all trades.
And, master of none, usually, which works fine for a house with maybe 10 devices. But imagine trying to scale that to a corporate campus with 5,000 employees. You can't manage 500 independent Swiss Army knives that don't talk to each other.
That would be an absolute nightmare. If I had to change the password, I'd have to log into 500 different boxes one by one.
Oh, yeah.
So how does the enterprise architecture solve this?
They use what's called a split MA architecture. This is a really, really key concept in the documents. They literally split the brain from the body.
The brain and the body. Break that down for us.
Okay, so you have the access points. We call them lightweight APs, and they are scattered everywhere on the ceiling, in the hallways. Their job is the real-time grunt work. They send out beacons, handle encryption, listen for probe responses. They are the body, or you could say the muscle. They don't make big decisions. They just execute.
So if the AP is the muscle, where's the brain?
The WLC, the Wireless LAN controller. That sits safely in a server room, maybe miles away from the actual AP. The WLC handles the big management functions, authentication, security policies, roaming decisions. The AP is just the messenger. The WLC makes the calls.
Okay, so you've got the muscle on the feeling and the brain in the server room.
Yeah.
How do they stay in sync? Because if I'm walking down a hall loading a web page, that AP needs to talk to the controller, like instantly.
They use a tunneling protocol called CAPWAP.
CAPWAP. I saw that acronym all over the source material. It sounds like a comic book sound effect.
It does, doesn't it? It stands for Control and Provisioning of Wireless Access Points. It's a standard protocol, and essentially it creates a virtual tunnel over your regular wired network. But here's the detail that really matters. It's actually two separate channels within that tunnel.
Two channels?
Yes. It uses UDP port 5246 for the control messages. That's the management traffic, the brain signals. And then it uses UDP port 5247 for the actual data.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I understand the data path here. If I'm in a big office and I load a web page, my data goes from my laptop up to the AP on the ceiling, and then what?
In a centralized setup, no, it doesn't go straight to the internet. That AP takes your data, wraps it up inside this CAPWAP tunnel, and sends it all the way back to the controller in the server room.
Wow.
The controller then strips off that wrapper, inspects the traffic, applies policies, and then sends it out to the internet.
That just seems inefficient. Doesn't that add a lot of travel time?
It adds a tiny bit of latency, yes. But the trade-off is control. It allows the IT team to manage everything for thousands of users from one single choke point. You can't do that if every AP is acting on its own.
And here's my anxiety kicking in. What if that connection dies? You know, a backhoe cuts the fiber line connecting the branch office to HQ where the controller sits. If the brain is cut off, does the body just die? Does the Wi-Fi just turn off?
That is a very valid fear, and that's exactly why we have FlexConnect.
FlexConnect. Sounds like a yoga pose.
It's basically a survival mechanism. In connected mode, the AP talks to the controller. But if that link goes down, the AP automatically switches to standalone mode.
Ah.
The lightweight AP is smart enough to locally handle the basic switching and authentication. It keeps the local network running, even if the brain at HQ is unreachable.
So the muscle has a little bit of muscle memory. It can keep swinging even if the brain is distracted?
Precisely. It prevents the branch office from going dark.
Okay, so that's the hardware. Brains and bodies, CAPWAP tunnels. But let's zoom in on the invisible part, the signal. You mentioned Wi-Fi as a polite conversation. Looking at this section on protocol discipline, it seems, well, remarkably bureaucratic.
It has to be. This is the CSMA protocol.
CSMA, area sense, multiple access with collision avoidance. That's a mouthful. But looking at the steps, it feels like a very anxious person at a cocktail party trying to tell a joke.
That is the perfect analogy. Let's break it down. Carrier sense literally means listen before you talk. Before your phone sends anything, it listens to the radio frequency. Is it idle? Is anyone else talking?
And if it's idle, does it just send the data?
No, and this is where it's different from Ethernet. It doesn't just blurt it out. It sends a polite request first. It's called an RTS request to send. It asks the AP, hey, can I speak?
And the AP responds.
With a CTS clear to send. That tells your phone, go ahead. But here's the brilliant part. The AP broadcasts that clear to send message to everyone in range. It tells every other device, quiet everyone, the phone is talking for the next few milliseconds.
Ah, I see why that's necessary. Because I might be able to hear the AP, but I might not be able to hear the person on the other side of the room who also wants to talk.
Exactly. That's called the hidden node problem. You and the other guy are hidden from each other. If you both shouted at once, the AP would just hear garbage. RTS-CTS coordinates that.
So everyone else holds their breath while my phone transmits.
Right. And then comes the most critical part, the part people forget, the ACK, the acknowledgement. Yes. Because this is radio, things get lost, interference happens. So if your phone sends the data but doesn't hear an ACK coming back from the AP, it just assumes the packet was destroyed in a collision. And it starts the whole process over again.
So every single time I load a web page, there is this massive handshake happening for every tiny piece of data. Listen, request, clear, transmit, acknowledge.
Millions and millions of times. That's the wireless overhead. With Ethernet, you just send it. With Wi-Fi, you have to negotiate for the airtime, which is why your Wi-Fi will never be quite as efficient as a cable.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the packet header in our sources, 802.1n has up to 4 ME addresses in the header.
I noticed that. I thought a packet just needed a to and a from. Source and destination? Why do we need 4?
On a wire, yes, that's all you need. But in Wi-Fi, remember the architecture. The AP is an intermediary. So we need the receiver address, which is the AP, the transmitter address, which is the client, plus the ultimate source and ultimate destination.
It's carrying extra baggage because it's a relay race.
Exactly. It's fascinating how much work is happening just to keep the peace.
It really is. Okay, but let's talk about where this conversation happens. The physics. We have these two main frequencies, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. The sources describe 2.4 as crowded.
Crowded is putting it mildly. The 2.4 gigahertz band is the Wild West. Here's the thing most people don't realize. You only have 3 non-overlapping channels, 1, 6, and 11.
Wait, only 3. My router at home lists channels 1 through 11. Why can't I just use channel 3?
You can, but you shouldn't. Think of the channels like lanes on a highway, but the cars are wider than the lanes. If you drive in lane 3, your tires are spilling over into lanes 1 and 6. You're just creating noise for everyone. To get a clean signal, you have to stick to 1, 6, and 11.
But there's the problem. Everyone is on those channels.
Yeah.
My neighbors, my baby monitor, my Bluetooth.
And yes, your microwave.
The microwave. I knew we'd get back to the microwave. Explain this to me. Why does heating of a burrito kill my Zoom call?
It's just pure physics. A microwave oven works by vibrating water molecules. It does this by blasting radiation at approximately 2.45 gigahertz.
Which is right in the middle of the Wi-Fi band.
Dead center. Even though the microwave is shielded, some signal always leaks out. Essentially, your microwave is a massive frequency jammer in your kitchen. When you turn it on, it screams so loudly your AP can't hear your laptop over the noise.
That is incredibly vindicating. So the solution is 5 gigahertzes.
Yes. The 5 gigahertz band is like moving from a dirt road to a superhighway. It has way more non-overlapping channels, over 20 of them. It's faster, less interference.
There's a catch, isn't there? I noticed at my house, the 5 gigahertz signal drops off way faster when I go to the backyard.
That's the trade-off. Physics dictates that higher frequencies, shorter wavelengths, don't penetrate solids as well. 2.4 gigahertz has longer waves. It can punch through drywall. 5 gigahertz tends to bounce off or get absorbed.
So it's speed versus reach. Now, speaking of reach, let's look at this diagram on topology and coverage. It shows these circles around the APs, and it calls them the BSA.
The basic service area. Think of it as the bubble where the AP can be heard.
And when you chain them together, you get the ESS, the extended service set, the whole network. But there's a specific detail here about a roaming overlap of 10 to 15%. Why that specific number?
Think about walking down a hallway while on a call. As you leave the bubble of one AP, the signal gets weaker. You need to connect to the next AP before the first one drops you completely.
Like Tarzan swinging from vine to vine. You have to grab the next vine before you let go of the first one.
Exactly. That 10 to 15% overlap is the handover zone. It's where your device negotiates the switch. If the circles don't overlap enough, you fall drop call. If they overlap too much, your device gets confused. It sticks to the first AP even when a better one is available. We call that a sticky client.
It's a Goldilocks zone. Just enough overlap.
Precisely. It's a delicate balance.
Okay, there's another term here, modulation. It contrasts narrowband with spread spectrum. This looks complex.
Sure. Think of narrowband like shouting a message very loudly on a single piano note. It's powerful, but if someone else hits that same note, your message is destroyed.
Okay, and spread spectrum.
That's what Wi-Fi uses. Imagine taking that same message and whispering it across 100 different piano notes at the same time. You spread the signal out.
So instead of one big spike, it's a wide, low hum.
Exactly. To an outsider, it just looks like background noise. But the receiver knows how to reassemble all those whispers. This makes it incredibly resistant to jamming and interference.
That's genius. And does that tie into the antennas? Because I see MIMO mentioned everywhere.
Yes. MIMO stands for multiple input, multiple output. This was a game changer. Before MIMO, echoes were bad. If a signal bounced off a wall and hit your antenna twice, it caused interference.
But MIMO likes echoes.
MIMO uses the echoes. It uses multiple antennas to send different streams of data on different paths. It bounces one scream off the ceiling and shoots another one straight across the room. It has multiple conversations at once with the same device.
So it turns the messy acoustics of a room into a speed advantage.
That's it.
Okay, so we have the hardware, the protocol, the physics, but now we have to talk about the dark side. The threats. Because if this is all just radio waves, can't anyone just grab them?
That's the inherent vulnerability. There are no walls. The threat landscape section here highlights 3 big ones: denial of service, rogue APs, and the man in the middle.
DOF is denial of service. We talked about the microwave. That's accidental DOS. But it can be malicious.
Oh, absolutely. A hacker can send deauthentication frames. Remember that polite management traffic? It's not always encrypted. A hacker can just shout, "Disconnect," pretending to be the AP, and your device will drop right off the network.
That's terrifying. And then there's the rogue AP.
It's usually less dramatic, but just as dangerous. A rogue AP is often just an employee, let's call him Bob from accounting, who brings in a cheap router from home and plugs it into the Ethernet jack in his office.
Oh, I see. So Bob has just created a bridge.
He's bypassed the corporate firewall and created an unsecured backdoor into the secure network. The Swiss Army knife strikes again.
And the third one, the evil twin.
This is the most deceptive. An attacker sets up a device that broadcasts the exact same network name as the coffee shop you're in. Your phone sees coffee shop Wi-Fi with a stronger signal than the real one, and it connects automatically.
And now the attacker is the man in the middle.
Right. All your traffic goes through them. They can capture your passwords, see everything you're browsing.
So how do we defend against this? The sources list some legacy defenses that they basically dismiss, like SSID cloaking, hiding the network name.
Total false security. People think if they turn off broadcast SSID, the network is invisible. But the network is still sending out beacons. Any basic scanner can see a hidden network instantly. It's security through obscurity, which is, it's no security at all.
And M-filtering, making a list of allowed devices.
Also weak. I can just listen to the airwaves, see your laptop's MC address, and change my MC address to match yours. It's called spoofing. It's trivial to do.
So what actually works?
Real encryption and real authentication. Identity verification.
The gold standard listed here is AES with CCNP.
Yes, WP is dead, WPA2 is aging. We need strong encryption. But for an enterprise, it's about how you log in. At home, you use a pre-shared key, or PSK. Everyone knows the password is pizza123.
Right, which means if I fire Bob from accounting, he still knows the Wi-Fi password.
Exactly. That's why an enterprise uses 802.1x via a Radius server. It's an AAA system. Authentication, authorization, and accounting.
AAA, how does that work?
You log in with your own username and password. The AP doesn't decide if you're allowed in. It forwards your credentials to the Radius server. The server checks your ID. If you pass, it gives you a unique encryption key just for your session.
So even if I'm sitting right next to you, I can't decrypt your traffic because my key is different from yours.
Exactly. It completely isolates every user.
And that brings us to the future. WPA3. The documents call this the next gen. What's so much better about it?
A few huge leaps. First, for personal use, it has something called SAE, Simultaneous Authentication of Equals.
That sounds very Democrat.
It solves the weak password problem. In WPA2, a hacker could capture the login handshake and then go offline and just guess the password over and over, a dictionary attack.
Brute forcing it at their own pace.
Right. SAE uses a cryptographic method that makes those offline attacks mathematically impossible. Even if your password is just password, they can't crack the handshake itself.
That is a massive upgrade. And I see something here called OW Opportunistic Wireless Encryption.
This is for those open networks, like at the airport. Right now, that Wi-Fi is totally unencrypted. OWE lets your device and the AP perform an encryption handshake without a password.
So I don't need to type anything in, but my traffic is scrambled.
Exactly. It kills passive sniffing in public spaces.
And lastly, for my smart light bulbs that don't have keyboards, DPP.
Device provisioning protocol. You just scan a QR code on the device, and it securely onboards onto the network. No more typing complex passwords into a terrible app.
That sounds like a dream.
It's the evolution of trust.
So let's bring this all back together. We started by saying Wi-Fi is invisible magic, but it's really this system of layers.
It really is. It starts with the hardware splitting the AP muscle from the WLC brain. It moves to the protocol, that polite CSMA dance. It relies on the physics of coverage and modulation. And finally, it's all wrapped in the defensive depth of AES encryption and WPA3.
It really changes how I look at my phone when I see those little curved bars. It's not just connected. It's discovering, authenticating, associating. It's negotiating speeds and channels. It's dodging microwaves and interference. All in milliseconds.
It is likely the most complex infrastructure that we completely and totally ignore.
Here's a thought to leave you with, listeners. We've moved from an era of hiding, our networks cloaking SSIDs, to an era of mathematically proving who we are with SAE. As our airwaves get more crowded with smart everything, the challenge isn't just about speed anymore.
No, not at all.
It's about automated politeness. Is the future of wireless actually about devices getting better at waiting their turn in a deafeningly loud digital room?
I think that's exactly right. The smarter the devices, the quieter the room effectively becomes.
Something to think about the next time your video buffers. Check your microwave, respect the blinking light, and thanks for listening to this deep dive.
See you on the next one.